As expected, the number of cases of COVID-19 jumps. A total of 33 people in our state have been tested and are confirmed to have the coronavirus. The map has also expanded with new cases now in Washington, Bradley, and Faulkner counties. State officials say most of these cases are related to travel outside of Arkansas. That's why the governor recommends families stay home for spring break.
Are you all ready? All right. Good afternoon, and thank you for attending our latest update on the 2019 novel coronavirus, or COVID-19. As of this afternoon, we have 33 Pennsylvanians who have tested positive for COVID-19.
This morning, the CDC warning of a potential uptick in daily coronavirus deaths, now forecasting up to 23,000 deaths in the next 3 weeks. That would average out to more than 1,000 deaths per day.
We see the numbers that keep going up and up and up, so something has to change.
Across the country, infections now on the rise in 33 states. Missouri is reporting its deadliest day this week. A new study now suggesting young people are driving the spread.
Happening today, the first coronavirus task force briefing in nearly 2 months. So it's a big deal. And this is all coming as the CDC is issuing a sobering estimate of just how many more infections could actually exist. Tracy Potts joining us now from D.C.
Carolyn, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Today, for the first time in 2 months, we will hear from the coronavirus task force as COVID-19 cases start to make a vicious comeback in most states.
33 states have seen an increase in COVID-19 cases in the last week.
Right now, Georgia is reporting a total of 99 cases in 19 counties. That is 33 new cases from just yesterday, with Fulton, Cobb, and DeKalb reporting the biggest increases this weekend.
I wondered if that is the case here, too, in Colorado. In fact, people in their 20s have the highest number of infections. We just got this update from the state. Last week, nearly half of the new cases were people who are 20 to 40 years old. People over the age of 80 account for just under 7% of all the cases in the state. Yet it's more deadly for those older folks. 900 older Coloradans have died. Mackenzie O'Keefe joins us live with a message for the young adults right now. Mackenzie.
That's right, Karen. Well, in that information, we also learned that the average age now of a COVID patient has decreased to 33 years old.
The state reported a decrease in COVID-19 cases today, but a rise in the number of new deaths. Today, 2,076 new cases, 33 new deaths. That's 6 more deaths than Saturday.
A young coronavirus patient from Italy is busting the myth that only the elderly can contract the deadly infection. In a video message, 33-year-old Andrea Napoli shared his battle with COVID-19.
Taking a look at the situation around the rest of the world now, the number of total cases globally edging to more than 33 million.
Yesterday we had 22 cases. Today we have 33 cases, so it has gone up by 11.
You're free, and freedom is beautiful. And, you know, it'll take time to restore chaos and order, but order out of chaos, but we will. Yeah, John.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 39 of Off the Mark. I am your host, Miss Tootie O, and with me, as always, is my beautiful and amazing and deliciously cheapest co-host, Miss Meeks Kali. How are you guys, ladies and gentlemen?
I couldn't last that long in that mask, among other masks. Other masks that we have to put on. But guess what? COVID's back, baby, and it's back with a vengeance. And we got much much news about it that we can bring you guys, and otherworldly news that we can bring you guys about it. But before we do that, I want to let you guys know you can find me at Tootie Oh My Hero on Instagram, backup Tootie 2.0. You can find the cast and donate to us at the patreon.com/offthemarkcast. Please, if you guys can at least, if you can't donate, at least take the time to subscribe, like, share, as you can find all our videos on YouTube with the same moniker, Off the Mark Cast. So that's us. And yeah, so let's do this, man. We got a lot coming to you guys as far as this COVID thing. As you guys saw in the intro, you saw COVID and the number 33 coming up a lot, so we get to discuss that a little bit. I cannot wait to do that. Depopulation, lockdowns, mandates. We got tons and tons to think to do. Miss Meeks Khali, how are you, my dear? And are you ready?
I'm ready. Bone ready. Let's do this.
Yes,
Okay.
born ready.
We'll dive in. Woo. So where we last left you was all about the pizza and the sexy beast, and like we were like kind of in a mood there for a second, like shining a light on, when somebody please think of the children. But since then, yeah, COVID's been having an uptick. There's been surges and yeah, overwhelming variants of differing degrees. And yeah, there's been a huge push for the vaccination efforts, a lot of attention being drawn to the divide. And I think I last heard it reported that 55% of adults in America have now been vaccinated, and that approximately 45% say that they just aren't going to at all. So that we've kind of like come to that head where anyone who was on the fence has kind of like been cited, and now we're at the divide of it with this last push in efforts. It seems like they've been really blaming and targeting the unvaccinated, and creating a lot more implications where people might feel coerced or like they have to and don't have any alternative. Disneyland just announced that they're requiring for all of their cast members to be vaccinated, which is pretty, sets a precedent for that level of, because they'd already announced that government workers were going to have mandates for them to be vaccinated. So that's already like doing a societal separation of, this is like the federal level and the civil or commercial level. But now it's crossing into industry where they're showing a corporation being able to make those same demands. And of course, there's been personal accounts and stuff like that of people at, a restaurant or here or there at, different areas of employment that also insisted or required a vaccination in order to continue working there. Or I guess maybe we should be more discriminating with our words of how we describe what we're talking about, the procedure that's being promoted.
Yes and no. I mean, it isn't, the line has definitely been drawn in the sand, but not only in public sectors, but in private sectors. Right. And honestly, that isn't okay. And if you work in the government, for the city, even for a hospital, those are something that you can kind of see. Why? Because they work with public, they work with very different people. Disneyland, you can logically say the same thing. Oh, you're interacting with people all the time. You don't know what they're coming in with, this and that. So on that side of things, when it comes to germs and diseases and bacteria, and you want to be cautious and this and that, I can understand that. On the other side, this is not a vaccine. This isn't a vaccine that they're talking about. They call it a vaccine, but that's not what it is. So like, we have to remind ourselves constantly that you're not putting a vaccine inside of your body. You're not putting something inside your body that's going to help you or prevent this virus that's going around right now. Right. There is something going around right now. There is no doubt about it. People are getting sick. Okay. So it's not about COVID being a hoax. We're past that, actually, to be honest. It's really more the citing What is more important to you? Your health, your money, your compliance? There's so many things that we have to face morally every day now. Again, the line has been drawn in the sand, and so many people have to decide to get this vaccine and undermine their own morals simply because they have to keep their work. And again, these are people in private sectors. These are people that these are anecdotal cases, and it's a case by case basis where I can't get it because this, and that, and the other, or I choose not to get it because this, that, and the other, which again is every American's right to receive and or not receive.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a dangerous time we're living in right now, because not only are on top of these things being pushed, people trying to pay you for it, people trying to fire you if you don't get it, people trying to make sure that you test if you don't get it. And I think it was the CHP, who is California Highway Patrol, recently, I believe yesterday or the day before, protesting the mandates because they're saying if you do not want to get the vaccine, you will pay for your own COVID test every single day. You will pay for yourself to get tested every single day. They're punishing us for just trying to live and trying to be healthy and trust our immune systems. The same thing we did 2 years ago.
Right.
Summer of 2019, we woke up and we believed that we were healthy enough to go outside and go to work. We can't do that anymore.
Right.
That's scary. We can't trust that our bodies are healthy enough to get up and go to work without putting a mask on, without getting a jab, without putting a freaking Q-tip up our nose. It's when did that change and why? These are the things we have to look at. And honestly, the reason why we brought up the COVID-33 thing is because they use words to make sure that we are conditioned, that our brains are like sponges, and to make sure that the only thing we're worried about is the mask stinger and mask, and using these numbers and these spells in order to make sure that they give us the things that we're looking for. And I'm going on a rant, and I didn't mean to do this yet. I meant to save this for later. So without further ado, my love, if you want to play some of the videos, I'm so in. I forgot. Shut up, lady.
No, that was perfect, because there's a lot to cover. There's a lot of breadth to it, and we can save the video that we have in store for you all till the end, because it puts a lot of context into where we're coming from and just like where all this is headed. Because again, not to say that people aren't getting sick, of course they are. A lot of people have a personal experience of knowing someone or they themselves who have gotten sick in the last year and a half or so, with these flu-like symptoms, Right. But also people got sick before then, people will get sick afterwards. And so the sickness in and of itself is not the issue here. The issue is how and what and where they're going with it. Like, how are we complying with it and interacting with the presence of sickness in society, and what freedoms are we, relinquishing to it? Because right. Like you said, we're not 2 years ago, like it was your call if you felt like I'm not well enough to go into work today, I'm throwing up or whatever. Like I can tell that for myself, or you could realize like you have a sniffle and for yourself that like you're otherwise feeling healthy, that it's that like season of with pollen in the air or whatever, and you're able to distinguish for yourself that like, oh, that's my allergies. And a year and a half ago, we were entrusted to be able to distinguish between the two, but now we cannot. We need an official test to determine for us where our health lies on. And even that, we've had so many reports of tests being tampered with or results being inconsistent, where people take 3 tests and 2 of them say yes, 1 of them says no, right. Or or people who didn't take a test getting notifications that their test came back positive. Like, I didn't take one. So where's this coming from? And right. And across the board, or in Tanzania, how they did COVID tests on a pawpaw fruit, and I forget what else, like a Diet Coke or something like that, like non-living things that were contracting this. So again, the point isn't that people are, so it isn't an issue of people getting sick or not. We're always responsible for our health. There's always going to be threats to our health, either environmental or however. And, you know, if we were to track the impact of like phthalates and stuff from plastics and whatever, and how that's both long-term and immediate, whether people die instantly or have 10, 15 years of cancer, like gradually growing in their body, either way, like our lifestyle is having an impact on the environment that then is influencing our health worldwide on a grand scale. So people like to make excuses for, you know, oh, well, of course we didn't have mandates for vaccines because we have never faced a pandemic of this magnitude before. So these are like desperate times call for desperate measures, and we're in new territory, as though we don't already implicate our health for the last like decades.
You know what makes it even more ridiculous, and it's so obvious we don't see it. One, it really pisses me off and bothers me that we haven't asked one question, and the ones that are asking questions are either being silenced or we're crazy people. You know, so the majority of the country isn't asking any questions. Let's put a pin in that real quick. The thing, oh, you know what? Let me just go because I forgot what I was gonna say. I sent Miss Kali a now hiring ad from the Army National Guard, and one of the specific positions that they're hiring for was basically a specialist who runs internment camps. And, you know, nobody's asking, well, what internment camps? Like what camps?
Right.
Like what detention centers are we hiring these men for, or these people for?
Right.
You know, what detention centers? Like, I mean, what war are we waiting? Like, it's
what
just
are we detaining people from or for?
Exactly. And what people are we detaining?
Right.
What people are we detaining? You know what I mean? It's obviously, it's not what's going on over the border. You know what I mean? It's not that. So what are they being hired for? Are they going to eventually, you know what I mean? Is nobody asking? Nobody's asking. These white buses that I keep seeing here in Long Beach, just plain old school Waco, Texas, white buses, like traveling, like there's at least 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 that I see here in Long Beach. They're FEMA buses, right? Why they're here, I don't know. They're here, then they disappear. Then they're here. They are. I can tell you exactly where they park. They park on the PCC campus of Long Beach City College.
Oh.
So if you're local and you see them there,
you see them when you drive by.
That's what they are. Yeah, I should take pictures of them. I really should. But yeah, they're there, then they're not. And it's rows and rows and rows. And if somebody knows exactly what they are, and you can tell me and I'm wrong, please let me know, because they freak me out. They freak me out. The same white buses you see in any apocalyptic movie where people are being detained and taken elsewhere.
Right.
It's crazy. They're not even hiding it anymore. Look, it's the same white bus from in the movie. Look at 9/11. Man, watching 9/11, that looked exactly like a movie. Gee, I wonder why. I wonder why our movies look like real life and real life look like movies. You know what I mean? It's, you know, we mentioned so much about the predictive programming and how this and that are interconnected. And we do sound like crazy people until you actually see what? Captain America? What? The 2012 Olympics? What? Like, you know, I mean, yes, it does sound crazy that these things are related and these things are being put into our brains. But that's what we're trying to tell everybody and warn everybody, is that it's not your fault, first of all, that you're living in the fear that you are, or that you think that you're so convinced that you wearing a mask is helping out mankind. It's not your fault. Okay, these are things that they're putting into our brains, and it's up to us to shield it. But how do you know if you don't know? You know? So yeah, I mean, and it's all again, and these and prominent figures tell you this very same thing, and like Charlie Kirk and not so much Ben Shapiro, I don't know about that guy, but you know, Candace Owens, they tell you that the end agenda is depop, is for depopulation, for mass control. They're not conspiracy theorists. These are level-headed human beings who definitely live their lives in order to make sure that the American people live sovereignly as possible. That's literally their only agenda, is to make people aware. and to try to find a common ground with people who disagree with them. And I love seeing people. That's my goal. I suck at it because I don't care about people personally. Where I just want to survive. That's where I'm at. So I'm on a different level, and I know it's a little selfish, but I like zombie movies. I watch zombie movies. I'm just here to survive, man. But at the same time, the British are coming. Okay, the British are coming. So if I got a job to do to tell people, just like anybody else does, let's do it. You know what I mean? And I got to tell you guys, I learned so much on my own, but I learned more when I talk to Miss Meeks Khali. We don't agree on everything, and we don't agree on everything. In fact, I think I'm a little bit more Alex Jones gung ho American than she is, which is just fine because she gets to level me and bring me back to the spiritual side of things. And hey, man, just to warn you, this and this and this. Oh shit, you're right, and vice versa. I get to inform her what's going on economically, government things that she doesn't know. That she can say, oh, you know what? I bet you this is happening because of this. It's amazing. It's amazing the balance, and anybody and everybody can do it. It's a matter of shutting up and listening. And again, that's my problem too. But yeah, I mean. The thing is, we're really, really running out of time here, you guys, and that's not a fear mongering or I'm not trying to use hyperbole, but we really, really are. So, it's only a matter of time where we are going to be put on lockdown again. If I can predict, it's going to happen anywhere between Halloween and maybe February. But who knows? Because there's going to be the Halloween and the holidays and Christmas, and money is going to need to be made. It's going to be a tough call, but it's coming.
Amazon's got us covered for that. We don't need to worry. Yeah,
no kidding, right?
I wouldn't be surprised if they just like they drag the kids out of doing at-home learning to bring them back into the classrooms for the last 2 weeks of the school year. I wouldn't be surprised if they send all the kids back just for 2 to 3 weeks of enduring all these new, like, okay, you have to stand in line, you have to sanitize this way, and don't interact with your friends and wear your mask, so they can get that ingraining, just to then send them home on another lockdown.
Right.
And be like, oh, nope, we did too much, everybody intermingling. And there's been such a targeting on the kids now of, encouraging of, oh, they're doing vaccine trials on kids 8 to whatever to 15, just like me, or and they have these kids doing these campaigns of my turn, and getting them excited and amped that I was in danger before because I couldn't get the vaccine, but now we're caring about the children. Where last year, the theme was you got to save grandma. Now the theme is going to be we have to save the kids. So I wouldn't be surprised if they send the kids back to school, and then there's all these outbreaks, and then they have to do the mandated vaccines to the kids because, we had an outbreak, so they all had to get shipped to this other center so we could test them all and make sure before we were releasing all the kids at the school that and that they mandate vaccinating all of them that way. But yeah, you touched on so many great points earlier, like you were saying, of Candace Owen, and all these examples of what an interesting year it's been, that conservatives were, growing up, conservatives in our mind were very staunch and whatever, and now that's being equated with such a radicalism to to think in those terms. And like you're saying, we're giving all these examples of the predictive programming and the synchronicities, like the 33, because twice, once is a coincidence, twice is there's something there. But when there's all these things that line up, like the Captain America, like the Olympics, when there's all these things that line up and you have a basket of hundreds of coincidences, then you can start to see design and intention and patterns and systems that are in place to bring about certain results repeatedly. And as we've brought up a lot on this cast, that this is spell casting and rituals and magic at work. There's a reason why different numbers have different energies. It's why money's even able to be a thing, because it's carrying quantities of energy with it when it's exchanged, and any number is doing the same every time we mention it or quantify it with something. So, again, we're not trying to deny the presence of threats to our health, and again, end game is depopulation. So by hook or by crook, whether they're able to get us and fall in line, it's as if they have less population, or, they like actually, cool the numbers. Either way, that's where this is headed. So there's the need to protect our health. And if it's not our fault that we are falling in line. So we're also not coming at a place of criticism for anyone who has been vaccinated or has made, the best choice for their family that they felt based on the information that they had. Because, we're all working with the same set of knowledge in that we know what we know. Like, you know your name, you know your phone number, you know your address, whatever. You know there's stuff that you don't know. Like, I know I don't know how to fly a plane. I'm not a brain surgeon. I'm aware of that. But then there's also the things that we don't know. And that's like the majority of the pie. Landmark. So we don't know necessarily that these people of power and that are making discernments and judgments that are affecting large populations of people, we might not know where they're coming from or if they have our humanity's best interest at heart. But when we can see these systems at play, then it helps for us to distinguish. So like if we can see patterns of Bill Gates speaking about depopulation in his interviews, if we can see these patterns of Fauci like puppeteering, the pandemic with masks work, they don't work. You need 2, you need 8, you need none, you need, but if you're vaccinated, but even if you are vaccinated and all of this stuff, and even if they've been having a lot more people getting COVID after being vaccinated, getting the jab, and they still got it. Yep. And, they're trying to downplay it of like, oh, at least they didn't get that sick, or they're supposedly less infectious. But
unfortunately, they were under the impression that they weren't going to get sick at all.
Right.
It's crazy.
That's why they bothered. So now they're trying to also use like death as the line of like, well, they got it, but at least they didn't die. But all you unvaccinated people are certain to die. I mean, all the unvaccinated people, the whole year of the virus before we even had the vaccine, right. Not everyone who got it died. But now they're certain that you will.
Well, I got it last October. I still have yet to get the vaccine. I don't think I will because
natural immunity.
I have natural immunity. And if I do get sick again, and I got to be honest, I probably won't, knock on wood. I do what I got to take care of myself. Mm-hmm. I was doing it before, right. But at least now I have extra stuff. So I better keep that extra stuff and keep it going. You know what I mean? So yeah. And what's beautiful is for those for certain folks, even folks who don't necessarily believe what we believe and whatnot, but a lot of folks use this as a wake-up call to get healthier. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I know plenty of folks who use the year 2020 and now to basically lose weight, and hey, I have the time to go outside and take a walk. I might as well go do that. And I think that's really cool. So there are small positives. There are plenty of cons, but there are things like that. So there are folks who can, like I'm saying, common denominator is we all want to be healthy. None of us want to die, right? That's pretty common, right? So I mean, I think that's one place to start. Let's get our health going. Let's see what we could do. The only way we're going to be able to fight this sudden bombardment of tyranny is community. That's it. And it's important now more than ever. And the whole idea of the second you turn the TV on, the second you watch BuzzFeed or Vice or whatever the hell these these millennial programs and networks are, they all talk about individualism, be alone. And people are alone. I mean, on top of the lockdowns, even before the lockdowns, I'm an individual, I'm an independent. I said myself, which is great. Right. It's something to admire, but there's no more community. There's no more, no, don't you understand? I can't be labeled this and that. And they're the ones who do the most labeling and the most grouping and the most like, tribalistic, just anyway, it's so interesting that the idea of individualism and community have both been extremely confused and extremely like, you can't be one thing without, you can't be patriotic without being a Proud Boy. You can't support Black lives without being part of BLM and Antifa. You know what I mean? It does work that way. There are the line has certainly been drawn in the sand, which is kind of sucky, because I support Black lives. You know what I mean? Right. So, but but who's gonna believe me?
It's so 1984 of like that double speak where like lies are truth and whatever, freedom is whatever. All those kinds of things where, to say all lives matter, a decade ago, that just seems like such a blanket, like, of course, we could all agree about that, right? Everyone's on the same page with this, But now if either of us said it, especially, like we would turn some heads. So, yeah, and like you were mentioning earlier, our first instinct, and God-givenly designed, and so justly so, is self-preservation. Like that's our first and foremost obligation. So this comes into play with like, don't sacrifice your health or put it at risk just because the TV said so, or because everybody's doing it. Like if everybody jumped off a bridge, would you? Like, so that shouldn't be the argument of everyone I know got it. So, and they're all pressuring me, so I guess I should too. Like if there's a little voice in your head that doesn't feel comfortable with any type of medical procedure, then don't, because there's a wisdom to that, and our intuition and all of that is real. But at the same time, one of my mentors said, like, none of us get enlightened unless we all do. And, like, we're only as strong as our weakest link. And that's not just in like a good sportsmanship, I'm my brother's keeper kind of way, but also if, you have 3 months of food stored in your house, but all your surrounding neighbors don't, then when shit hits the fan, especially if they're aware that that was like your style or whatever, if you weren't very discreet with it, then where are they coming? So, and even if they don't, just that having that need is going to escalate things or in your surrounding area, even if they're not targeting you specifically, just them being in need. So if you can work together with your neighbors, start these communities, work together with your friends and families of having these networks and systems and fail safes and backups and all these kinds of things. Because, that's the thing about preparedness, is that you don't always know where it's going to lead. Like you can have all these storage of food and water and supplies and whatever, and then FEMA comes through and relocates you, or, like they have to ration and they're like, oh, you bought too much of whatever, and they're starting to pay attention to those kind of things at the store, and they're saying it on the shelf where like you can only buy 4 of these different staple foods like flour and corn or whatever. So you can't control what everybody else does. So first and foremost, we do just have to think of what's within our reach. What can we do with our day to make our best choices? Like pandemic or not, we're responsible for our health and our livelihoods, and pandemic or not, there's going to be threats to our safety and sovereignty. I forget if it was like Abraham Lincoln or it was Reagan, I forget, but like the quote where it's like freedom isn't earned like once and for all, it has to be defended with every generation, and that we're in this cycle of like where the grandfathers like achieve freedom, and then the sons of them are like comforted by it and grow lazy or accustomed to it, and then they lose it, and then the children have to re-earn the freedoms, and that we're just like repetitively in this cycle. And so what they've managed to do through technology is to like extend our adolescence so that we're not, and they even like marketed this whole like adulting thing as something to be I don't know, despised
It's a
or like
bummer.
yeah, like it's a bummer. Like it's, you know, we're trying to be self-serving and YOLO for as long as possible. But that
Interesting,
doesn't,
because I was part of that wave too.
right.
Yeah, I was ready to party.
Right.
And
Do me.
it sweeps you up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Of course. Well, why wouldn't you? I'm in my 20s. I'm this and that. I'm not going to be an old fool like my parents and get married in my 20s. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like and now there's people my age that are childless and miserable. And the only thing that they can do now is ignorantly fight battles that don't even have anything to do with them. You know, so that's where we're at. It worked. It completely worked. Whatever they were trying to unravel as far as feminism concerned, families, women, men, gays, straights, it worked. It's all unraveled. It's all a mesh. It's all entangled. We see it, right? Everybody sees, and nobody's gonna. The gays don't get along with the gays. I mean, come on, that's enough to tell us, dude, what's going on? What's going on with the gays, you guys? You know what I mean? Because that alone should tell us, hey, man, if these people are doing this and they're fighting within their own community,
there's this much infighting.
I mean, come on, you know what I mean? So it's always it's an us against them, and it's an us against them. No matter where you look, no matter where you turn, it's always us against them, and it's like it's so exhausting now. Really, it's us against us. It's just us against us.
There's only us.
Right. It worked. You know, and I know Ms. Khalil's gonna throw in a video in regards to something called, what was it called? Lockstep. It was a certain.
Yeah, it's Lockstep, and it's a concept kind of like the problem, reaction, solution, which is just their MOs and systems that they've been utilizing for, you know, centuries of doing, you know, control of humanity, that nations and people of power have played. And so in this new digital era, it has an intermingling with technology. And as we've mentioned on past casts of things like the Great Reset and Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030 and Vision 2050, that these aren't just conspiracy theories, you know, that we got off of InfoWars, that these are programs like established in government or like promoted by the World Economic Forum or the IMF, or like these monumental like global institutions that are directing the course of mankind, that like this is them saying it. So we're going to listen to an interview with Harry Vox, who explains the scenarios for the future of technology and international development. And and so like as on past casts, like our Great Reset one, sustainability or sustainable development is one of the key words to have an ear out for as we move forward to navigate. Because again, this isn't for fear mongering. There's always going to be illness, there's always going to be threats, but this is just about, you know, the journey of man and the human spirit and this life that we've been gifted to captain our own ship amidst it. So you can't control the waves, but you can learn how to surf. You are the master of your destiny and the captain of your ship. So like we can promise you there'll be storms, but there'll also be like calmer waters, and it's going to be a mesh of the two. So come what may, over the next month, 6 months, lockdown or not, what, you know, even if we're lulled into like a false peace for 5 years where we're like, oh, we beat the pandemic, and then 5 years from now, like, oh no, it's back, but everybody remember what to do back in the bomb, you know, like like the damage has been done as far as we've already entrained and had that exchange and agreement. And so like with problem, reaction, solution, Lockstep is referring to the 2 steps forward, 1 step back progression that systems of power have had with humanity as humanity progresses and is expanding and discovering itself, that there's this trade-off of they can't just outright oppress us, they can't just outright like murder, you know, 7 billion of us, so they just have their 500 million, because those 500 million remaining would be traumatized and pissed. So they have to do it like incrementally, or they can't just outright put us in 1984. They have to like get us on the hook and reel us in gradually. So instead of just mass surveillance, they're like, look at this cool new iPhone. You know, it's got cameras and stuff, whatever. Don't you need a camera? Don't you need a microphone? Never mind who else is listening.
Right? Yeah.
So this is an interview from, I think initially it was in 2014. So this isn't in and of itself having anything to do with COVID, but as we watch it, we may see some correlation. So we are going to share screen and sound this time.
Nice.
Not to get too fancy.
The ruling establishment has a lot of, they will stop at nothing to complete their toolkit of control, right? So one of the things that has been missing from the toolkit of total control has been quarantines and curfews, right? So now, welcome to the new world in America, where to get on a bus, to go through a subway station, if you think that the procedures at the TSA are onerous, right? Guess this is coming to a bus depot near you. It's a more invasive way, and the ruling class needs this because, let me say, if the ruling class ever saw wide-scale civil unrest, you'd see an Ebola outbreak in America right away.
Okay, so this is, what you see is that Ebola is
another tool in the toolbox of the ruling class
repression,
control. Yeah,
to keep down
absolutely,
repression.
positively, 100%. This is a tool.
Right.
Ebola doesn't just magically start spreading. And then we have this doctors that come back here. The white people, of course, live. You know, the two whites who got it or survived. All the black people that get it die. It's very possible that these one of these NGOs over there is going around with a veil of Ebola or spreading it from a small plane onto villages. The point is to get hundreds of thousands of people infected with it and create the next phase of control. Now, one of the things I'd like to show to back up my my claims here. Here's a document from the Rockefeller Foundation. Rockefeller Foundation, right there. You can zoom in on that, where my finger is. It's called Scenarios for the Future International Development, the Rockefeller Foundation. All right. Okay. Let's take a look at what they're saying here. This is something like a 50, 60-page document. I'd like you to go to page 18, if you can look at this up on the internet, but I'll read it off here. It's called lockstep, lockstep. And this is a phrase that I used right after 2001 when I saw the entire system of the United States, including the population, were in lockstep. So the Congress went along, and yes, it was Osama bin Laden, and the people waved their flag and said, I hate, 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 and everything was in lockstep. Well, in 2010, they published this, Rockefeller Foundation, and here's what they're saying. They're saying that they call it a scenario. These are scenario narratives, and they speak about it in the past tense. So they put out this scenario, lockstep. A world of tighter, top-down government control and more authoritarian leadership with limited innovation and growing citizen pushback. Okay, I'll read a little bit of it. In 2012, the pandemic that the world had been anticipating for years, nobody was anticipating a pandemic, finally hit. Unlike 2009's H1N1, this new influenza strain originating from wild geese, they use some scenario, but this is Ebola they're talking about. Ahead. Even the most pandemic prepared nations were quickly overwhelmed when the virus streaked around the world, infecting nearly 20% of the global population and killing 8 million in just 7 months, the majority of them healthy young adults. The pandemic also had a deadly effect on economies. You can see the agenda. Just naked, raw, naked control agenda written down, and it's anybody's guess how this becomes effectuated in real life. So whether this is written specifically as marching orders or whether people take it upon themselves in the intelligence networks to say, okay, well, this has been produced, so this is the plan here. But these narratives have to be written in advance because the intelligence agencies don't know how to do these narratives. They need help. So these think tanks, they come up with these like Rand Corporation, Rockefeller Foundation. These are think tanks of death. They're not the think tanks, they're not there to find great ways to help people. Right? Okay, the pandemic also had a deadly effect on economics. International mobility of both people and goods screeched to a halt. which is what they want. They want a completely isolated world, right? Debilitating industries like tourism and breaking global supply chains. Well, of course they want tourism stopped because they're not in the tourism business, and they want you at home in your house in front of the TV. Then they got you, because once you watch the TV, they own your soul. Even locally.
Wait a second, we're on television.
I mean commercial television, let's say. National. Even locally, normally bustling shops and offices sat empty for months. Okay, so I love how they talk about it in the past tense in 2010. Right? The pandemic blanketed the planet, though disproportionate numbers in Africa died. Southeast Asia and Central America, where the virus spread like wildfire.
It sounds like the opening monologue of a disaster movie, right?
Exactly. Now listen to, here's the good stuff now. But even in developed countries, containment was a challenge. Now here's this one. I love this one. The United States' initial policy of strongly discouraging, in quotation marks, strongly discouraging citizens from flying proved deadly in its leniency. So they're saying, that...
No, keep going.
Okay,
read it.
Proved deadly in its leniency. So they should have been tougher, right? Accelerating the spread of the virus, not just within the United States, but across borders. However, a few countries did fare better. China in particular. The Chinese government's quick imposition and enforcement of mandatory quarantine for all citizens, as well as its instant and near hermetic sealing off of all borders, saved millions of lives, stopping the spread of virus far earlier than in other countries. So the message is here is we have to look towards the Chinese, the oppressive totalitarian. Chinese regime as an example of what we need to be doing here. And of course, the ruling class here loves the Chinese regime because they have demonstrated to the ruling class the most efficient form of capitalism, which is authoritarian capitalism. So we have capitalism, but unfortunately we have this veil.
I get it.
We have this veil of democracy.
This is very interesting. This is continue on.
Okay. China's government was not the only one that took extreme measures to protect its citizens from risk and exposure. During the pandemic, national leaders around the world flexed their muscles, flexed their authority, and imposed airtight rules and restrictions. You can see the agenda.
Okay, go.
Okay. From the mandatory wearing of face masks to body temperature checks at the entries to communal spaces like
that's what's happening right now.
Yeah, but soon it's going to be like body.
It'll be at the subway.
Yeah,
is that what you're saying? We'll be going through this in the subway to get on buses and the subway, things
positively.
like that.
And what this means though is don't think about having a cigarette, a joint on you, or basically you can't. This is a dragnet for everything. So if in order for you
in other words, just like with stop and frisk, this is ultimate stop and frisk.
This is the ultimate cavity stop and frisk, cavity search kind of thing. All right, so during the pandemic, national leaders around the world flex their authority. Now there's some good stuff. Listen to this. And even supermarkets, they want body checks at supermarkets. Okay, so basically what they're saying is they're building a system where every move you make, you got to go through them.
You can't get food. Well, how about if you go to the farmer's market?
Right. Here's the good stuff now. I mean, it just keeps getting better. Even after the pandemic faded, this more authoritarian control and oversight of citizens and their activities stuck. And even intensified. That's the whole point. So they're going to get rid of...
Didn't that happen already with 9/11?
Of course.
9/11 was how many, 14 years ago, and we still have all these draconian
So
rules.
they're going to put the body cavity
USA,
searches
Patriot, and all
That's
that
right.
stuff.
So in order to get to a supermarket, you got to have a body cavity search. And then when there's no more Ebola, well, you know what? We kind of like this way because we have an complete infrastructure of a control grid. In order to protect themselves from the spread of increasingly global problems, from pandemics and national terrorism to environmental crisis and rising poverty, leaders around the world took a firmer grip on power. Well, what the hell would rising poverty have anything to do with imposing strict citizen controls with face masks? So they're very sloppy stuff here. At first, the notion of a more controlled world gained wide acceptance and approval. I'm sorry. Nobody likes this stuff. They're just saying it. No, I have to provide analysis.
Only because we only have 5 minutes left, so that's
Oh my God, okay. Citizens willingly gave up some of their sovereignty and their privacy to more paternalistic states in exchange for greater safety and stability. I mean, that's just a complete naked contradiction to the famous saying that if you think you're going to give up a little bit of security, I mean, if you're going to give up your freedom for security, you're going to get neither. That's the long-standing thing. And here what they're doing is they're not even ashamed or embarrassed to absolutely say the exact opposite. They're saying, yes, we all want to give up our privacy and sovereignty for more stability and security and stability. So you don't get that. When you give it up like that, you get the shaft.
Can you show us the cover again of what you were just reading?
One more time, and then I have two more documents.
Right, this is what we were reading here, and just zoom in a little bit so folks can see it. He'll zoom in, don't worry, you can relax. And scenarios for the future of technology and international development.
Okay, now I have two more documents. Keep it zoomed. We have the National Security Memorandum of December 10th, 1974. This is Henry Kissinger's brainchild. The National Security Memorandum number 200. You can look that up on your internet. I'll summarize it. He says that there's too many people, we got to get rid of the population. So to answer your question.
From earlier.
Yeah, he says, he used the word depopulation, which is different. Depopulation means killing people that already exist, and it's to get the minerals, because we need the minerals. And here's another one. The CDC has a patent on Ebola. They've patented it. Yeah? Right. So basically, if you want to get a cure for your Ebola,
it says it right up here, right? It says human Ebola virus species and compositions and methods thereof, and it's a patent.
It's a patent. They patented the main strain plus something like 17 other strains of it. So they own it now, and I don't know how exactly you can own that, but apparently they've done the same thing.
Yeah, I didn't think you could own a natural.
Yeah, you can. I guess the main thing to finish off this show is this, that they want to get more control, more and it's going to be curfews and quarantines. So what I'm saying is that unless the American people start to get some new way to revolt, a new way to organize, new way to protest, unless we can break through the apathy, because that's what we have here, then it's going to be a slave state here. The ruling class doesn't seem to have too much resistance. They're getting everything on their Christmas shopping list, and they've been wanting quarantines and curfews for a long time. Now they got it. And if you want to live in a world where you're tricked into all this stuff because it's for your safety, right? And if you want to have a probe and make sure you got to check your pockets, make sure you don't have anything incriminating on you before you go out, and when you step out of your house, you want some police there to monitor and see what you're doing. If that's the world you want to live in, be apathetic, don't do anything. You're going to get that world very soon. It's coming your way, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what should people do? What's the hope? You have 30 seconds.
To wake up, learn about it, and go fight these bastards in Washington. They're easy to beat. If we can just organize, we can beat them. It's simple. They're weak, and there's so few of them.
So I have not seen that at all. That is freaking chilling as hell. That
and remember when before when they had circulating the COVID patent? So
yes. Holy crapoly, man. Yeah, that was a bit much. And you know, I heard a radio ad the other day, and it was straight propaganda. I couldn't believe it. It was a Gavin Newsom ad, basically saying that this is a Republican recall and don't listen to the recall. It's a Republican recall. And it's like, what are they talking about? Like, it's literally the entire state of California, which is all blue. There's like 5 freaking Republicans here in the entire state. Like, what the hell are you talking? Man, that shit, it got me. Like, and then seeing this, I almost freaking passed out right now. Like, is this guy for real? I just sent it. I was looking for it immediately, and I just sent it to my mom right now. I'm like, you guys, oh my God, like, look at this. It's because that is 2014? 2014.
Right.
What a coincidence, right? Just a coincidence.
And the plan was, or the Rockefeller Foundation plan was written, I think, in 2012 that document was. So, or 2011-ish. So 10 years later, and here we are, like right on schedule. The other thing that occurred to me though, when he mentioned about how these like specialists and stuff who are putting the wheels in motion for it all, that they're taking the ideas from think tanks, and that's what the Rockefeller Foundation and these different types of groups are. And it reminded me so much of like Olympus and humans just being like the playthings of these gods, like for entertainment and stuff like that. And that the human spirit and the creation, God's creation of man is so resilient that like, what do you do in the meantime while we're, getting for our enlightenment? And they're like the Sids on the playground of Toy Story, where they're like torturing.
Do you remember that Mark Twain video that we played? That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah.
Like humans are such simple creatures, and he just basically squishes the hell out of his clay human that he made, and he was having fun with it. He makes them, he breaks them. You know what I mean? It's creepy, it's gross, but it's
for entertainment. I bet they watch the news like it's popcorn.
What movie was it where Leonidas has to go and pay basically pay money to the oracles, and they basically tell him if he's going to win the war or not?
Is that 300?
Oh, 300. Yes, that's what it is. 300. Yeah, that bothered me. It bothered me. Like this is disgusting. One, it was a pretty gross scene, and two, it was just like that. Exactly that. It's like, wait, what do you mean? Like we can't. What Miss Kelly said in a previous cast is that they work so hard to make sure that we have a huge disconnect between us and God. And that's really all it boils down to. You're born in the image of God. God is as free as they come, ladies and gentlemen. Lucky guy, right? He's free, he's healthy. He probably never had COVID.
Well, he has COVID. COVID's all up in him. If God encompasses all.
Well, there we go, right? Hey. Well, okay, so like it's funny that movies like that and then what things like this is just watching the disconnect of man. Why can't he just pray to God? He has to go to these like naked bitches, like, you know what I mean? I pay them money. That's crazy, So yeah, there was that, and it just things like that, and then understanding what we can understand now on the outside looking at that, man, that really is all the agenda is. It's just making sure you're disconnected from your God, because when you're disconnected from your Creator, you don't understand what your rights are. And the foundation that you build for yourself is built on sand. Another biblical reference. The wise man built his house upon a rock, basically. And and we don't know where that rock is. We're always trying to find it, within ourselves, but not in the right way. Right. It's so weird. Like you said, the double speak, how they want you to be you and do you and body positivity and you, which is great, because we are supposed to look within ourselves to find God. Mm-hmm. But that's not what they're telling you to do. It's crazy. That's not what they're telling us to do. What they're not telling us to look into ourselves to find our God, to find how we were created and get those answers and find our purpose. They're not telling us to do any of that. And like they're saying, you don't really have a purpose. Just live your life and do you. There really is no purpose. That is the worst thing you can tell any human being.
Horrible advice.
You don't have a purpose. Yes. And kids seem to be okay with it now. I don't have to do anything. Why should I work? I'm just going to die and this and that. Like, all right. Yes. I mean, there's so much that has changed within the last 10 years that has escalated so quickly. And yet the cards of the elite have been built so high, and yet the cards of humanity have fallen apart and regressed so much that it's going to take so much for us to rebuild our own. So it's just and again, I'm so happy dude brought up 9/11, because I was going to bring it up. Like, we've seen this before already. We've already gone through this.
Another interesting
thing.
These
rules and these. Go ahead.
Sorry. Another interesting thing is like right after 9/11, when people were like, wait a minute. That's when Britney Spears, I believe, had her first breakdown where she like shaved her head and walked barefoot into a bathroom and married and like that was her like episodes year, and even what got her into the conservatorship.
Right.
So even her conservatorship has been like this legacy of oppression since 9/11 ish.
Right. No kidding.
And now with the COVID stuff, as we're like reopening and everything, was when everybody's like, free Britney.
Yeah, no kidding.
And every celebrity is commenting on it of, I remember her in the 90s and what she's gone through. I have thoughts about that.
I love
In Hollywood.
right? We suddenly want to free Britney, but we don't want to free ourselves. We forgot.
But that's where all of our focus
we forgot
is.
We're in the same position she's in.
Somebody help her.
Oh man, I'm a son.
We're buying birds too. Oh, she's got it bad.
Right? Yeah, right? Idiot. Oh man, that's so funny. You know what else? And again, with bringing up Britney, somewhat of a psyop, right?
Right.
I think the Cuomo thing, and if you guys haven't heard, just real quickly, Cuomo has now been charged, and I think has been found guilty of being a perv, sexually assaulting many people. Never mind how many people he murdered during COVID last year. So again, another psyop, another distraction. Yes. Oh, like forget the people that died that didn't have to die.
Right.
Forget the genocide that just happened last year in the United States. And I'm sorry, I don't know what you would define as a genocide, but 9/11 itself, in my opinion, was its own version of was genocide junior. You know what I mean? 4,000 people gone like that. 4,000 Americans, it's unheard of, which was it worked. Again, it worked. If those people, even if they die, false flag, we're not going to go there. But yeah. So I mean, it's funny how quickly and just the timing from 01 to 2011 or 2010 or whatever year. I don't even remember what happened in 2011 or 2012. It would be so not exactly 10 years, but basic 10-year increments.
Right.
It was 2012.
But that whole year lead up to, because like 2012 was kind of, its own set apart. It was kind of like a leap year in a sense, kind of like 2020 has been.
Was supposed to be the end of the world.
Right.
Right. The Mayan calendar, end of the world. People, the doomsday preppers were all about it. I mean, maybe that was even the spawn of the Q movement or Anonymous or whatever it was. You know what I mean? But yeah. These things have escalated.
And it's funny how they rewrap it, how, during the interview, he's mentioning Ebola, of course, and the H1N1. And, like we remember that during Obama's time and a lot of the conspiracy or prepper communities pointing to all of that as like being the thing. But like they give the example with 9/11 that it's the lockstep, it's the increments. So maybe 9/11 wasn't a once and for all 1984 V for Vendetta, like equilibrium type control world, but it's still, you still have to take, or you did before COVID, have to take your shoes off and can't bring small bottles of liquid on the plane. So it still has its presence there. So what they accomplished with H1N1 and Ebola still, set its own little precedents, even if it wasn't a full-on lockdown like they've had with COVID. But now that the branding or the fear from COVID has subsided a bit, now they have to like repackage it with these variants, the Delta variant and other variants. I think there's like 5 different kinds. And even if we have like where it lays off for a bit, they can bring it back with a new branding of another infectious disease that we've already like set that precedent again and how to respond to it. So rather than like being concerned about the boogeyman outside of ourselves that could potentially come in and, well, big brother, please save me, just realizing there's always threats to our health, whether there's a like Ebola or H1N1 or COVID type virus pandemic, external or not, like you're still going to have to defend your health in the periods in between, whether it's because of things like Fukushima or Chernobyl or like whatever. So just like to not have that attachment to the challenge itself and just keep fortifying your internal self. Like you said, how we're having all this, body positivity and like self-subservient kind of culture where instead of having that bedrock in ourselves that we're trying to get all these things from the external world to fulfill ourselves, to protect ourselves, to agree with us and match us by taking the outside in rather than being so strong in our link of divine given to us freely. Like we don't have to pay for life. It kind of just happened in a sense, that we have to defend it tooth and nail once we're here, but like it's given to us freely. So it's like a plant, like trying to reach for the sun or reach for water. Like you have to be receptive of it to like accept and let it in, but you don't have to like uproot yourself and walk down the street to like, oh, there's better sun over here. You know, it's just like blooming where we're planted, and we're completely ignoring the soil beneath our feet, both figuratively and literally. There's a reason why there's been a surge in like bunker building and all that kind of stuff among the elite. And
it's funny. It's interesting, sort of, kind of coincidental. Ooh. I mentioned today earlier that I mentioned earlier today that I was like, you know what? I think everybody needs at least maybe one rock bottom tragedy in their life, so that when they wake up in the morning, they can be like, you know what? I'm breathing, man. I'm breathing today. This is awesome. Today rules. You know what I mean? And, you know, only because I have experienced that. So I have been able to be like, and it's not every day. Sometimes I suck. Sometimes things suck. It's okay that things suck, but that's the point. And if you want to, the thing is it's just change the mindset, change your point of view. Yes, 9/11 was tragic. Yes, that was traumatizing. Yes, that was scary. Yes, COVID's pretty scary. Yes, that's traumatizing. But you know what? You're still breathing. You're still here. Let's do something about that. You know what I mean? I see so many memes now of kids, of things like, I just want to say, fuck my parents for giving birth to me.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? Things like that. Like, what?
Wow.
Like now I have to be an adult. Like, it's ha ha ha. That's really funny, dry humor, I suppose. But you know what? That's really their attitude.
Right.
That's really their attitude. Oh, I gotta be here. Like, you know what I mean? And if that's not their attitude, and if that is their attitude, eventually that attitude turns into a sickness, a mental illness. And where does that lead our kids? Where does that take? Well, I mean, we know where that leads our kids. Suicide's at an all-time high right now. Before COVID and even increasingly more because of COVID. It's sad. And it's funny how last year, 2020, we were somebody, please think of grandma and grandpa. And yet the crazies were sitting here saying, please think of the children, because they're taking our children and they're using them for this and that and the other. And now this year it's like, oh wait, think of the children. Now there's the narrative all the time. Yeah, now we
but forget the nursing homes, forget grandma.
Just be aware that these things are happening, and they're not. It's not on purpose to make sure that you guys are safe. It's to make sure you guys go crazy. To make sure we all go nuts. This lockstep is it's really happening. It is a pattern. I'm going to give you a little bit, and I'm going to take a lot. I'm going to give you a little bit, and I'm going to take a lot. It just happened a month ago. From June 15th to July 15th, we had a mask-free month. Exactly one month of mask freedom. 1 month in California, and now
is our yard time.
and thank God there are many establishments that aren't enforcing it. They've turned a blind eye to it, which I love. I have had to make a list of stores that do that in order for me to be able to continue to shop. But yeah, that's where we're at. But on that token, because we are in California, this is a blue state. There are mandates that are being thrown across the board, private and public sectors. You have to get tested every day, or you have to get vaccinated. You don't have any other choice. So I'm going to close out. If Miss Kali, do you have anything you want to add before I do so?
I think just like I had something, but just drawing back to our being the self-reliance that we're developing, and that being aware of the pattern of like where we know where this is going. Like we've gone around the merry-go-round once or twice. So like we don't need to ask, let's stop infighting and arguing with each other about it. Like we can see where this road is leading, and we're only going to get off of it when we get off of it. It's like whenever we're in, like if you take out a loan and you get in debt, then it's really hard to get that step out of debt because you're just constantly operating on that system. If you get like supports, like all these stimuluses and unemployment, because they were closing all these businesses. So now a lot of people are like addicted to that income of the unemployment, and, you know, like get it, been there, but it's these crutches that they're giving to us. And we think that it's a trade. Like you said, if you think that you're going to give up freedom for security, you end up with neither. That it's, you know, this lockstep, they go 2 steps, they take too much, and then they give you, oh, that was too much, you don't like it, they give a little bit back. Take too much, give a little bit back. It's like with taxes, like they take too much and then they're like, oh, your refund here. Turns out I stole from you. Right. Like it wasn't a fair exchange. Right. Or sometimes they decide like, oops, I didn't steal enough. Yep. They come back once more for a big lump sum. and that thankfully it is turning to this, that people aren't complying the same way that we did last time, but not to be discouraging, but in some ways it is too little too late. Like the time to like peacefully non-comply was last year. Like now we're already used to it. Now they have all the signs printed, and like posted, all the stickers are on the ground, all stamped in real good. Yep. like we already, and so, but they're anticipating it too, because this last round of the quarantines and lockdowns, and he calls it quarantines, but of the lockdowns and the mask and everything, this last round was only like so subversive, but it wasn't like full on 1984. We know where this is going, depopulation, right? So the next time needs to be more and more, and even like Bill Gates is like, this next wave that will get their attention, wink, and they smile, like psychopaths. So with this next round of it, yes, there's been protests popping up all over the world, not just in the US, of people, since they've been starting to have these like mandated vaccines and these COVID passes where you're not able to go into the public sector, like the example they gave of the bus stop, like grocery shopping, things that you would do every day to live, because we aren't off grid and self-reliant, that they're making these like check stops for us, or these hoops that we have to go through just to continue participating in society. So yes, there's global protests, and they're not reporting it on the news. We're talking about Britney, free Britney, forget the world, right. But Britney.
Or Meghan Markle and Harry.
Or Meghan Markle, right, yeah. Like, take care of her. But I guess the caution that I want to draw to here is that as we're non-complying now, as we're trying to, the veil's being lifted and we're seeing the agenda behind it, that as we protest, that we need to do so cleverly. Like, you don't just charge in guns blazing, as far as, our attitude of, I'm not going to take this, and I'm just not going to wear my mask and whatever. Because like, that's what they're wanting now, is that they realize that they're not going to like hook by crook, they want us vaccinated. So they're not going to there's only so much they can hook now. They're, they've done their benefit concerts. They gave out the free donuts and lap dances. Biden had a new thing where he was like going to give everybody $100 or something like that who got vaccinated from like this point onward. And he's like, now I know that might sound unfair for all of you guys that just got your vaccine and didn't get the $100, because you can imagine people hearing that and going, oh man, yeah. Like, can I show them my pass and like reapply it? Right.
Never mind, didn't get it. I'm
just cut off. But so even in his talk, he's like, but don't think about that. Don't think about the $100 you're not getting. Just think of that, how we're all like in this together, that it's a good thing that those other people, or whatever it takes for them to get their, vaccine.
He's such a damn muppet.
They're like, so they're at the like end of their, enticements to get people to get the vaccine that way. So now they're having to have a reason to do it by force, but they can't just initiate it of their own accord, because then you don't trust your handler. So they have to have us beg for the breakups. They've already set the scene with all the George Floyd and defund the police, and Washington's going through a whole overhaul where they're like investing all this money back into the police force there to combat the like surge in crime and like correct how they've gotten off course over this last year. So, and like the ad for the detention center specialist that's now hiring. So they've already put the pieces in place. They made us a powder keg, and then put us at odds so that people will now protest. But once there's all these protests, oh no, what can we do except for roll them in, and just like they mentioned these scenarios, that they have plenty of scenarios, not just like George Floyd in some ways, wherever you fall on how intentional it was or whatever, whether he was just a real guy that, had his life taken in that way, tragic, but regardless, however it was, or whether he was, it's all hoax and actors and all that. Either way, that the way it's being utilized is that they've laid the scene for our relationships with the police, and like a sense of they did that framing of civil unrest. So everybody's aware that outside their door, there's a potential of, violence potentially or protests, and that we might come, they're leading us to get to this point where there's vaccination protests on both sides of people not wanting it to be mandated and not wanting these passes so that they can get on an airplane or bus, or people on the other side that were like, we must mandate the vaccines because, all these people that are making their own health decisions are endangering us all. We must separate them, So there'll be like protests on both sides, and that's intentional. And just like the election, it's like we're having another election this year, except for this time, like the candidates are a vaccine and variant. I don't know. So they're preparing us for these so that way they can problem reaction solution us back in to having a FEMA state and martial law and all those kinds of things. So
I mean, he wasn't wrong about how they mentioned China. So we're supposed to be looking at China. He's right. We should be looking at China because they are the number one example, and they already have people, millions of people.
Teacher's pet.
They already have people that are being killed via genocide. China is the example that we should be looking. He's not wrong. Currently, as of Sunday, I believe, maybe even last Sunday, China is back on lockdown again. Millions and millions of people are back on lockdown in an instant because of the Delta variant that's going around right now. The Delta variant that's going around in China. And as of today, it has officially hit Wuhan. The Delta variant has officially hit Wuhan. So yes, watch China because yes, we're next. UK is on lockdown, but they're protesting, I believe, right? It's coming. It's coming here, and we have to decide what we're going to do about it. And like Ms. Khalid said, it's too little, too late in a sense. It's too little, too late in a sense. So I mean, when we do find that common place, and again, there are conservatives and there are liberals that are coming together because they both have had it, in their own way. Like, no, this isn't science anymore. So you do see it. In fact, there's a video of Michael Rappaport recently where he's saying, I got the vaccine and now you're telling me I'm a super spreader. Pissed off. Like, fuck you guys, I'm not a super spreader. Like, and maybe we'll be able to add that video. But yeah, it's really short. But yeah, it's insane. They're pissed off, and good for them. But like you said, a little bit too late, because the people who have been trying to tell you, the people who have been trying to warn you months ago, years ago, or a year ago, have been completely shut off, including our previous president. That should have been warning number one. Well, all of a sudden, this guy's allowed to talk out of his ass, but now we're going to shut him up?
Okay.
For 4 years, he was allowed to talk out of his ass. Now he has something real to say. Now we're going to shut him up? Interesting. Yeah. Just stay prepared. Just keep your eyes on the prize. Stay focused, and at the same time, keep your eyes on the prize, and understand that it's going to take some time to find your own community, to find your niche, to find where you sit and fit in, where you can still gain knowledge and grow without having an echo chamber. That's really hard. It's really, really hard to understand where you stand and understand that false knowledge and false information comes from all aspects of life, because everybody has their own agenda. Everybody has their own agenda, including us. Mine is simply to survive and gain a future for my kids. And I'm sure that's a common agenda for most of us. So yeah, with that being said, I'm going to close out because I have to go, and I would love to keep this conversation going, but I do have to leave. We do have some great episodes that we cannot wait. We're very excited to record. We have a feminism episode part 2 featuring Marge Simpson, where we've both been talking about it a lot. We can't wait to do that. We're going to do a special 9/11 episode. We mentioned 9/11 a lot today. We are going to do a special 9/11 episode, and that's going to be I don't know how do you word it, a dual cast, because we're going to be doing it with a special guest from another cast, and we're both excited about doing that as well. So look forward to both of those in the future. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this. We hope you learned something. Miss Meeks Kali, you look like you have something to say.
Yep. Bye, guys.
Say something anyway. All right, you guys.
You have the floor.
Man, you have the floor. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. I've been your host, Miss Tootie O, Miss Meeks Kali. Everything that you are about to see, everything that you have watched has been all her work. Again, thank you so much for everything you do. Love you so much. Love you guys. Stay focused, stay vigilant, prepare yourselves. Peace.
Thank you.
People should not be walking around with masks. Let me just state for the record that masks are not theater. Wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better. And masks are protective, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is.
There has not been any indication that putting a mask on and wearing a mask for a considerable period of time has any deleterious effects.
There are unintended consequences. People keep fiddling with the mask and they keep touching their face.
And can you get some schmutz sort of staying inside there?
Of course.
You do not need to wear a mask indoors if, in fact, you've been vaccinated. Good that you're vaccinated, but in a situation where you have people indoors, particularly crowded, you should wear a mask.
So even if you are vaccinated, you should wear a mask. If, in fact, you are vaccinated, fully vaccinated, you are protected, and you do not need to wear a mask outdoors or indoors. When the children go out into the community, you want them to continue to wear masks.
You know, if you look at children outside, particularly when they're with the family, walking down the street, playing a game or what have you, don't have to wear a mask.
The Academy of Pediatric actually makes that recommendation that children should be wearing masks from 2 years old onward.
And you're asking now, if your child is a member of your household, can you walk outdoors with your child without a mask? According to that chart, the answer is yes.
But the child can't, not to beat it to death.
Yes.
Okay. Because now the CDC says, I mean, I think I've got this right. 1 mask is better than 0 masks. 2 masks is better than 1 mask. But you don't have to have double masks. Is that right? I mean,
it became clear that cloth coverings that you didn't have to buy in a store, that you could make yourself, were adequate. And then you want it to fit better. So one of the ways you could do it, if you would like to, is put a cloth mask over, which actually here and here and here, where you could get leakage in, is much better contained.
are you a double masker, Dr. Fauci?